is Cindy Speaker. I'm with State Law TV, and with me today is my guest, Carl Brizzi, our legal correspondent. We're going to talk about illegal immigration. So, Carl, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Well, let's start off. We have a clip here. I want to run this clip from Trump and have you comment on it.
And I said, we need to build a wall, and it has to be built quickly. And I don't mind having a big, beautiful door in that wall so that people can come into this country legally. But we need, Jeb, to build a wall. We need to keep illegals out.
Well, he certainly is an interesting character. So what do you think about that?
So, my mom used to say to me all the time, Carl, it's not what you say, it's how you say it.
Right.
Right? So he's in the middle of a bunch of different firestorms, but to his point and to his credit, he has drawn the nation's attention to the issue of illegal immigration. We have more than 11 million undocumented, to use a term of art, non-citizens living in the country, and the fact that we don't know who they are, where they are, what they're doing, what their background is a credible threat to the criminal justice system and to national security.
Absolutely. And I guess that's why it's so important to you. And your background is as a prosecutor.
Exactly. Prosecutor, 2 terms, 8 years, 13th largest state in the nation in Indianapolis, and we have a big issue with illegal immigration in the city. But look, here's the thing. I don't think that it's a credible thing to say that people from other countries don't deserve to have better opportunities to come to America to start a different life. But there are legal pathways in order to get that done.
Right.
And we as a nation have to adhere to what's called the rule of law. And the rule of law in our country is that there's a process to follow, and that process should apply to everyone equally, because it certainly isn't fair to the American taxpayers, and it's not fair to the immigrants who have followed the law and who have done the things that they're supposed to do and legally immigrated.
Right, right. I have another clip for you. I don't want to play this. This is Hillary Clinton weighing in on the subject.
I will fight to stop partisan attacks on the executive actions that would put dreamers, including those with us today, at risk of deportation.
Oh, I didn't stop it there. This is live. That's what happens on live.
That's all right.
Okay, so talk a little bit about Hillary and that comment.
So when we use words that don't actually describe the problem, that does nothing to actually help solve the problem, right? To say that Republicans are going after dreamers, or to use words like undocumented, those are euphemisms. Okay, that's not what we're talking about. Yes, they may be dreamers, but we're substituting that word for illegal action, illegal immigration, and that kind of dialogue. It's glib, it's intentionally deceitful, and it doesn't help advance the ball forward. If we as a country want to opt for open borders, then there's a process. There's a way we can do that, right? We can vote on it. We can let our feelings known to our elected representatives, and they can change the laws. Marijuana used to be illegal in all 50 states. It's now legal in 20 states. How did that happen? Well, it happened very simply. The laws were changed to allow that to happen. If Americans and their elected representatives want to change the laws to allow for unfettered access to our borders, that can be done. But what we ought not do is ignore the law, elevating illegal immigrants to a status of them not being accountable for their actions, which is not following the rule of law, because we're trying to achieve some political agenda.
Yeah, you're so passionate on the topic. Let me ask you this, though, because there are some social consequences to all of this. And, that's pretty tough to deal with, because it's like when you know the person, all of a sudden you feel a little differently than if you're just talking about undocumented people. I mean, how do you deal with the social consequences, and what's your thoughts on that?
Well, there's no question that there are real social consequences, and notwithstanding some of the glib comments made by the politicians referring to Hispanics and people from Latin America as criminals and drug dealers and all that. Look, certainly there's an element, there's a percentage of those who are coming in from other countries who don't have good motives. But that is certainly not the majority. So let's get that clear right from the beginning. And in terms of breaking up families, I have two thoughts on that, Cindy. Really, one is that people made a choice to circumvent the law by coming here, right? And there are consequences to making those kinds of choices. There are consequences to breaking the law. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that I don't think anyone is actually calling for, at least no credible candidate is calling for mass deportation of 11 million people. I think that the bureaucratic barriers that are in place to the immigration process, that needs to be addressed so that immigrants don't feel like that it's an option for them to circumvent the law, because that's really what we're dealing with right now. The reason why there are so many people crossing the border illegally is, one, because it's probably easier than going through the legal process, and two, there aren't any consequences for it. And so if you put a situation like that in place, you can't really blame people for taking advantage of that, right?
Right.
But at the same time, you can't reward them for taking advantage of that process. And so what we have to do as a community is come together, recognize the social factors, address the bureaucratic structure that's in place to facilitate people coming into the country legally. But the very first thing we have to do before we do any of those things is secure the border. You can't have a porous border. No country just allows people to just come and go willy-nilly whenever they want, whoever they want. We have all sorts of terrorist issues going on, and nothing about immigration, just about securing the border and know who's coming in and out, and who's coming in and out with what potential weapons of mass destruction. That, to me, is the key issue. That's the reason why I'm so passionate about it, number one. All of those other issues come after the government's first job, which is to protect and preserve the security and liberty of its citizens.
Well, let me ask you this: as we look at the Republican debates that we just had, do you see any candidate that you perceive has a handle on immigration the way that maybe your perspective is? Do you see any hope?
You know, right now, I think what we're dealing with is none of it's really comprehensive. It's more soundbitey and slogan, build a wall. That's easy to say, right? Does it need to be done? Certainly the borders need to be more secure, but the real nitty-gritty comes is in drafting and implementing a policy that is fair and that holds people accountable to the rule of law.
Yeah. Listen, thanks so much for your time today.
Thank you.
Okay, this is Cindy Speaker for State Law TV.